Welcome to Wounds to Wisdom. This is your sanctuary for transformation and empowerment. I'm Dr. Tracy, here to guide you through developing knowledge and awareness, providing you with coping strategies and being your companion as you ascend adversity. Together, we'll explore the power of resilience and healing. We will turn our struggles into strengths and our wounds into wisdom. Welcome to the very first episode of Wounds to Wisdom, a refuge for guidance and companionship as we brave the delicate process of trauma recovery. I'm Dr. Tracy, clinical psychologist, and your navigator in this journey towards healing, empowerment, and self-discovery. It's beautiful and brave of you to join me here. And wherever you're at in your path, you're in the right place for you right now. Content in episodes may contain triggering information. Just ensure you feel safe wherever you are listening, and switch off if you need to. Sometimes reading the transcript may feel easier. As always, please keep yourself safe. In today's episode, we'll be exploring the foundations of understanding trauma and how it impacts our lives. This is the first step on your healing highway. Firstly, what is trauma? It's a word we often hear in conversations about mental health and healing. It's often overused, and it can be difficult to define, as everyone's experience is unique. Trauma refers to any distressing event or experience that overwhelms our ability to cope and leaves us feeling helpless, out of control, or in danger. It can be a one-time event, like an accident, natural disaster, or assault. Or it can be ongoing and complex, like abuse, neglect, or living in a war zone. Understanding the effects of trauma is crucial in our healing journeys. It's like recognizing the map of a territory. It's so much harder navigating in the dark or in foggy conditions. So we want to shed light on the terrain before us. Trauma can manifest in various ways: physically, emotionally, and psychologically. Some might experience heightened anxiety, persistent fear, sleep disturbances, or even physical symptoms like headaches and digestive issues. Others might find their relationships and sense of self are profoundly impacted. Recognizing these signs in ourselves is the first step towards seeking help and starting the healing process. Remember, healing is not a linear path. It's a spiral where we circle back to things at different levels as we develop and change. I often think about peeling an onion. There are different layers that we do have to come back to when the time is right. Even though we have already used the word trauma a number of times, let's take a moment to consider what it truly means. What is trauma? Trauma is the body and mind's response to a distressing event or series of events that shatters our sense of security, leaving us feeling helpless and vulnerable in a world that no longer seems safe. It derails our view of ourselves, the world, and others. And while trauma varies widely in its intensity and impact, there are common threads in the way it manifests. For example, people who have experienced trauma may struggle with flashbacks, nightmares, and intrusive thoughts related to the event. They may also avoid certain situations or triggers that remind them of the trauma. They may experience difficulty regulating their emotions and feel disconnected from themselves or others. The key common thread between any type of trauma is the profound and lasting impact it can have on our perception of safety and security in the world. This altered perception not only influences our interactions with others, but significantly affects our ability to trust, feel secure particularly, and build meaningful relationships. This pervasive sense of vulnerability can lead to a wide array of emotional, psychological, and even physical responses as the body and mind attempt to process and cope with a traumatic experience. Recognizing the symptoms of trauma is a critical piece of the puzzle. Trauma symptoms can be physical, like unexplained aches and persistent fatigue, or psychological, such as anxiety, flashbacks, and mood swings. These symptoms are signals, a language our body uses to tell us something isn't quite right. When left unaddressed, trauma symptoms can significantly impact our overall well-being and quality of life. Trauma symptoms can manifest differently depending on the type of trauma a person has experienced. For instance, individuals who have experienced religious trauma may struggle with feelings of shame and guilt, while those affected by vicarious trauma may experience a sense of powerlessness or helplessness. Children experiencing neglect, a form of trauma, often overshadowed by its more overt counterparts, endure a unique set of challenges and symptoms. Neglect can lead to significant developmental delays, presenting in social, emotional, and academic spheres. These children may exhibit difficulties in forming secure attachments, demonstrating a hesitancy to trust adults or peers. Additionally, they might display an underdeveloped sense of self-worth, often internalizing the neglect as a reflection of their own value. Academic struggles are also common, as the lack of support at home can affect their ability to concentrate, engage, and perform in educational settings. Understanding the nuanced impact of neglect is crucial for providing targeted support and interventions that address these deeper emotional and developmental needs. Children experiencing emotional abuse face a harrowing and often invisible form of trauma. Unlike physical abuse, the scars are not apparent, making it challenging to recognize and address. These children endure constant criticism, threats, rejection, and other forms of emotional maltreatment that can severely impact their mental health and development. Symptoms may include extreme withdrawal, aggressive behaviour, a diminished sense of self-esteem, and an inability to form healthy relationships. Emotional abuse can also lead to anxiety, depression, and a host of learning and attention issues, as the child might struggle with concentration and self-expression. Recognizing the subtle signs of emotional abuse is vital for intervention and providing the necessary support to heal and nurture resilience in affected children. Children who experience sexual abuse face profound and complex challenges in their psychological and emotional development. This form of abuse, characterized by any unwanted sexual activity, profoundly violates a child's sense of safety and trust, often leading to long-term trauma. And of course, as a child, there is no choice if this happens. There is no consent, there's no capacity to consent. Victims might display a wide range of emotional reactions, including fear, guilt, shame, and confusion. They may also exhibit changes in behaviour, such as avoiding certain people or places, displaying sexual behaviour inappropriate for their age, or sudden changes in eating and sleeping patterns. The impact of sexual abuse can extend into adulthood, resulting in difficulties with trust, intimacy, and self-esteem. Recognizing these signs is critical for timely intervention. Providing the necessary therapeutic support to help the child heal and recover from the trauma is essential. Children subjected to physical abuse face harsh and often violent physical harm that not only endangers their immediate safety, but can also lead to long-term physical and psychological consequences. This form of abuse, which involves hitting, beating, burning, or inflicting other bodily harm, can result in injuries ranging from bruises and scratches to more severe damage such as fractures or chronic health issues. Beyond the physical scars, the emotional and psychological toll on these children is profound. They may exhibit signs of fear, anxiety, aggression, or withdrawal. Struggling with self-esteem and trust, the experience of being physically harmed by a caregiver can distort their understanding of healthy relationships and increase the risk of developmental delays. Early detection and intervention again are crucial to ensure the safety of the child, promote healing, and prevent further abuse. Another crucial aspect to be aware of in the context of trauma is dissociation. Dissociation can be understood as a defense mechanism where we mentally disconnect from our thoughts, feelings, memories, or sense of identity. For those experiencing trauma, this can be a form of psychological escape from painful realities. While it can serve as a temporary coping strategy, prolonged dissociation can hinder the healing process, making it difficult to confront and process emotions related to traumatic experiences. Recognizing signs of dissociation in ourselves or others is like becoming aware of a dead-end road on your travels. Awareness is a significant step in any therapeutic journey. Remember, even if you're not in a formal therapeutic relationship, you are still on your own therapeutic healing journey. Recognizing dissociation can be challenging due to its very nature as a defense mechanism, in that it detaches us from our immediate experience. Common signs include feeling disconnected from your body, or feeling as though you're observing your own life from afar, akin to watching a movie. You might experience lapses in memory, finding it hard to remember certain events, conversations, or periods of time. Other indicators can be a sense of numbness or detachment from emotions, where you find it difficult to access or express your feelings. Additionally, experiencing a distorted sense of time, such as feeling hours have passed in minutes, can be a sign of dissociation. You may even feel that the world around you seems surreal and far removed from yourself. So what predisposes someone to experiencing an event as trauma? The experience of an event as traumatic is deeply personal and can be influenced by a number of factors. These include past experiences of trauma, which can make someone more susceptible to being traumatized in the future due to a heightened state of alertness to potential threats. Our perceived ability to control or escape the situation we are in also plays a crucial role. Those who feel powerless or trapped are more likely to be traumatized. Emotional support systems, or the lack of these, can determine the intensity of the trauma response. Those with strong support networks may find it easier to process and cope with traumatic events, whereas those without may struggle more deeply. Additionally, inherent personality traits and coping mechanisms can influence how we interpret and deal with distressing events. Finally, the severity and nature of the event itself, its duration, intensity, and the degree of personal violation that has been experienced, all significantly impact its potential to traumatize us. If you feel traumatized, you have experienced trauma. No one can tell you otherwise. You're entitled to feel what you feel. It's crucial to acknowledge that the impact of trauma goes beyond immediate recollections and emotional responses, even when traumatic events seem to be forgotten or are not actively dwelled upon. They can still exert a profound influence on our psychological well-being and behaviour. Unresolved trauma can manifest in various, often subtle ways, such as inexplicable fears, certain behavioural patterns, or physical responses to similar stimuli. I had a client triggered by the colour red, for example, as the person who attacked them had a red car. These triggers can act as invisible barriers to freedom in our lives. It's as if we are constantly experiencing a re-traumatization from these associative memory cues. Therefore, dismissing the significance of past trauma under the belief that it no longer affects us can prevent the healing process and the opportunity to truly move forward. Recognizing and addressing these deep-seated issues with professional support, if necessary, is essential for holistic recovery and fostering resilience. I often see clients who will say to me, "Oh, I'm over that now. I don't think about it. Well, that didn't impact me." However, when we delve deeper, we often uncover the lasting effects of trauma and how it has shaped their perceptions and behaviours. One common reason someone might discount the impact of trauma upon them is the psychological defence mechanism known as denial. This mechanism allows us to reject the reality of the traumatic events to protect ourselves from the pain and distress associated with these memories. Additionally, societal pressures or stigma surrounding mental health and vulnerability can encourage people to suppress or disregard their emotional struggles. There's also the aspect of self-identity. Acknowledging trauma can force a re-evaluation of our identity and our whole life. I've worked with adults who were shocked by the realization that they experienced an abusive childhood, and also acknowledging this is essential for healing, but it's also profoundly unsettling, providing an illusion of control or normality. Amidst the chaos induced by traumatic experiences, there are these illusions. In reality, this exacerbates the long-term psychological effects of the original experiences. Trauma not only affects the mind and emotions, but it also leaves a profound impact on the brain's structure and function. Research has shown that exposure to traumatic events can lead to significant changes in areas of the brain. These are the areas that are responsible for processing fear, emotion, and memory. They include the amygdala, the emotional center, which is responsible for detecting threats and activating fear responses. The hippocampus, crucial for memory formation and retrieval. And the prefrontal cortex, which plays a key role in decision-making and emotion regulation. These neurobiological changes can lead to heightened stress responses and make it difficult for us to manage emotions. Also makes it difficult for us to react to perceived threats appropriately and recall memories without distress. Understanding the neurobiological impact of trauma is pivotal in developing the treatments. As we've said before, all of this understanding is key for working out the correct intervention that are going to be most effective for us. Building on the understanding of trauma's neurobiological impact, the work of Dr. Alan Shaw offers significant insights into how attachment difficulties and childhood trauma manifest in the brain. Shaw's research, particularly his analysis of brain scans, reveals tangible visual evidence of how early emotional experiences shape the brain's development. His findings show that children exposed to attachment difficulties or traumatic events experience alterations in the right hemisphere of the brain, which is crucial for managing emotions, stress regulation, and social interaction. These changes can contribute to a range of emotional and behavioural issues in later life, underscoring the importance of secure attachments and the potential ramifications of their absence. According to Shaw's research, the impact of attachment difficulties and trauma extends beyond changes in the right hemisphere. Additional studies have found that early life stress can also affect brain structures involved in memory formation, such as the hippocampus, and disrupt communication between different areas of the brain responsible for emotional processing. These changes tell us why those who have experienced trauma and attachment difficulties often struggle with emotional regulation, have difficulties forming and maintaining relationships, and may exhibit impulsive or self-destructive behaviours. Trauma's effect also extends into the specific brain areas critical for language and communication, notably areas called Broca's and Wernicke's. Broca's area is responsible for producing language, and Wernicke's area is crucial for understanding language. Both are impacted in trauma and lead to difficulties in verbal expression and comprehension. This disruption is particularly detrimental because communication is a fundamental aspect of forming and maintaining relationships, as well as expressing needs, emotions, and experiences. Trauma can lead to a decreased ability to articulate experiences or emotions, often leaving us feeling isolated or misunderstood. In severe cases, this may manifest as speech delays in children or a marked reduction in verbal fluency in adults, further exacerbating the sense of isolation and hindering the healing process. Understanding the impact of trauma on areas of the brain responsible for language and communication underscores the importance of forming a coherent narrative as a core component of the healing process. The ability to articulate our experiences, emotions, and thoughts is crucial for trauma recovery. It provides a means for us to process and make sense of our traumatic experiences, moving from a state of disarray and confusion to one of understanding and coherence, where we recalibrate how to anchor ourselves back into safety. This process of narrative building helps us to reclaim our voice, fostering a sense of empowerment and facilitating the reintegration of traumatic memories in a less distressing manner. The intricate relationship between the gut and the brain, often referred to as the gut-brain axis, also plays a significant role in how we process and recover from trauma. Recent studies suggest that gut microbiome, which is the microorganisms in the gut, there is a diverse community of these living in our digestive tract, and these can influence our mood, stress levels, and overall mental health. This connection is facilitated via various pathways, including the vagus nerve, our 10th and longest cranial nerve, our immune system, and neurotransmitters, which are our body chemicals that are produced in the gut. Traumatic experiences can disrupt the balance of the gut microbiome, leading to increased inflammation and changes in the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin, which is critical for mood regulation. This understanding of the gut-brain axis highlights the potential for interventions that target the gut microbiome as a novel approach in treating the psychological and neurological impacts of trauma. When trauma is held in the body, it can significantly impact the gut microbiome, leading to a host of physiological changes. Stress and emotional distress can trigger the body's fight or flight response, releasing stress hormones that alter the gut motility. This is the movement of food through the body. It can increase gut permeability, allowing more than water and nutrients through and potentially allowing entry to toxins. It can also disrupt the delicate balance of gut flora, which are the microorganisms in the gut. This imbalance can reduce the diversity of the microbiome, allowing pathogenic disease-creating bacteria to multiply, whilst reducing the population of beneficial microbes that are critical for us maintaining health. Such disruptions can exacerbate inflammation, affect the immune system, and further impact the balance of neurotransmitters in the gut. Overall, this deepens the psychological effects of trauma. This evolving understanding simply underscores the interconnectedness of emotional well-being, physical health, and mental health, and it highlights the gut microbiome's role in the body's responses to trauma. So to consider one part of a person, the emotions, the thoughts, or physicality, without considering all of those parts, is missing a trick. Trauma can take many forms. There are several types of traumas that we may experience. A single incident trauma is a response to a one-time, often unexpected event such as a severe accident or a natural disaster, and this can leave a profound impact on our well-being. Complex trauma, on the other hand, stems from prolonged, repeated experiences of distress, like abuse or ongoing conflict, which can compound over time and shape our worldviews. Religious or spiritual abuse, while less frequently discussed, poses significant psychological trauma that can deeply affect an individual's sense of self and their worldview. This form of abuse involves the manipulation and misuse of religious beliefs, practices, and structures to exert power and control over others. Victims may experience intense feelings of shame, guilt, and fear, often internalizing the belief that they are fundamentally flawed or unworthy of divine love and acceptance. The impact can lead to a profound crisis of faith, or even the complete rejection of our spiritual beliefs, which can be particularly devastating given the central role that spiritual and religious convictions often play in providing meaning, purpose, and community for many. So just adding to that physical, emotional, mental health, we're also thinking about spiritual health here. Navigating the healing process from religious or spiritual abuse requires addressing both the psychological wounds and the spiritual fallout, underscoring the need for a compassionate, holistic approach to recovery. Historical trauma refers to the cumulative emotional and psychological wounding over a person's lifespan and across generations, resulting from massive group trauma experiences. This type of trauma is often observed among populations that have faced long-term systemic oppression, such as Indigenous people, racial and ethnic minority groups, and communities subjected to colonization and slavery. The effects of historical trauma can manifest in various ways, including a loss of cultural identity, chronic health issues, and an increased risk of substance abuse and mental health conditions. Understanding the complexities of historical trauma is crucial. Again, if we don't think of all of these different parts of the jigsaw puzzle, we're completely missing the whole picture. I undertake a lot of immigration-based assessments, providing reports for the Home Office of the risks of a person returning to their home country. Historical trauma and the re-traumatization that the geographical location brings is immense for many of these cases. Intergenerational trauma, closely linked with historical trauma, occurs when the effects of trauma are not solely confined to those who have directly experienced an event, but are also passed down to subsequent generations. This transmission can happen through various means, including parenting practices, environmental stressors, and even genetic factors. Families affected by intergenerational trauma may notice patterns of anxiety, depression, or other mental health challenges that persist across the generations. Recognizing intergenerational trauma is essential for laying the groundwork for healing and resilience in future generations. So it's not just us that we're healing, we're also healing the future. Vicarious trauma is another type of trauma that individuals may experience. It refers to the indirect exposure to traumatic events through witnessing or hearing about them from others. This can happen for first responders, healthcare professionals, and humanitarian workers. This type of trauma can lead to symptoms similar to those experienced by direct victims, including intrusive thoughts, avoidance behaviours, and changes in mood and behaviour. So why do certain experiences become traumatic? It's a mix of the overwhelming nature of the experiences and our individual capacity to cope at that moment. Trauma can disrupt our brain's neural pathways, affect our memory and perception, and leave us stuck in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It impacts our nervous system, bringing about a disorientation that needs active healing strategies. The fight response, one of our primal reactions to perceived threats, can manifest in diverse and complex ways, particularly if we have had trauma. This defense mechanism, deeply rooted in our evolutionary quest for survival, triggers an aggressive response to danger, either real or perceived. In people who have endured traumatic events, the fight response may emerge as bouts of anger, irritability, or aggressive behaviour. It's as if the psyche, in its attempt to protect itself, adopts a battle stance to ward off further harm. We might find ourselves in frequent conflicts, displaying a heightened readiness to confront challenges aggressively. Understanding this response is key to empathising with the underlying pain and fear that fuels such reactions, rather than merely reacting to the aggressive behaviours that we see on the surface. The aggression is a messenger. It's communicating the underlying fear that is felt. The flight response, another instinctual reaction to danger, compels us to escape the threatening situation. In the context of trauma, this can look like withdrawal from social interactions, avoiding reminders of the trauma, or engaging in behaviours that numb or distract us. We may subconsciously seek to put physical or emotional distance between ourselves and anything that reminds us of our distress. This avoidance can manifest in various ways, such as a sudden disinterest in previously enjoyed activities, hesitancy to form close relationships, or even physical relocation. The flight response serves as a protective measure, aiming to minimise further emotional pain by distancing from potential sources of threat. However, just like the fight response, it is a signal of the deep-seated fear and uncertainty residing within, a desperate attempt to find safety in a world that feels overwhelmingly dangerous. Meanwhile, the freeze response in the trauma spectrum is equally complex and significant. This reaction occurs when we perceive a threat that we believe cannot be escaped or combated effectively. In such moments, the body's defense mechanism opts for immobilization, conserving energy and minimizing visibility to potential predators. This state can manifest in humans as a temporary inability to move or speak, a disconnection from the surroundings, or even a detachment from our emotions and physical sensation. If we frequently resort to the freeze response, we may even appear withdrawn, spaced out, or disconnected from our environment and the people in it. This is not a simple choice or an act of cowardice, but an instinctive survival strategy. Understanding the freeze response is crucial in recognizing signs of trauma in ourselves or others, and this is a step towards fostering a supportive environment for healing and recovery. The fawn response is a lesser known but equally significant one. This involves a person instinctively trying to please or appease others. This is done to avoid conflict, criticism, or further trauma. In this coping mechanism, individuals often put their own needs, feelings, and aspirations aside, prioritizing the desires and demands of those around them in an attempt to safeguard themselves from perceived threats. This behaviour can lead to a pattern of people-pleasing, difficulty in saying no, and an excessive concern for the approval of others. While on the surface we might seem highly cooperative or exceptionally amiable, our actions are deeply rooted in fear and a learned belief that safety lies in submission. This response highlights the complex ways in which the psyche attempts to manage and survive traumatic experiences, emphasising the importance of recognising and addressing these behaviours in the healing process. It is on the highway to healing you're on that Wounds to Wisdom comes in, drawing from the depths of the diverse healing modalities I have trained in, from clinical psychology to Jungian life coaching, from yoga to meditation, and beyond. Together we will explore comprehensive approaches to mending not just your thoughts and your feelings, but your body and spirit too. In the episodes to come, we will explore therapeutic techniques, integrative healing practices, and stories of resilience and triumph over trauma. This podcast is your sanctuary, a place to gather strength, wisdom, and resources as you reassemble the fragments left by your past experiences and you rewrite your story. Keep an eye out for episode 2, From Shock to Strength, Navigating the Aftermath of Single Incident Trauma. If today's insights resonated with you, I encourage you to subscribe to Wounds to Wisdom, both the podcast and the blog. If you become a paid subscriber, you'll get bonus podcast episodes, therapeutic resources, printed prompted journals, guided meditations, and a Q&A session to chat directly with me. Please feel free to share this with others who might be walking their own path of recovery. Together we are forging a collective narrative of transformation, from the pains that once shocked us to profound insights that now shape our lives today. I invite you to join my chat on Substack and make requests for specific topics of discussion, and maybe share your own recovery milestones. Some episodes will be interviews with trauma survivors, so if you would like to voice your story, please feel free to contact me. Until next time, may you find peace in knowing that you are not alone. And with each step, you are rewriting not just a story of who you were, but of who you are becoming. There is a post-traumatic expansion as you take up the space in this world that you truly deserve, and you align with your authentic self, not just for you, but for generations to come. Thank you for sharing this space with us today on your journey of healing and growth. Remember, healing is not linear, and it's okay to take one step at a time. If this episode touched your heart, taught you something, or gave you strength, then please share it with someone who needs to hear it. As always, be gentle with yourself because you're doing amazing. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and thank you for letting me use my voice to hear your voice.